Have you ever found yourself thinking, I really should be going to bed right now. I really should be getting to sleep right now. But instead of doing that, you procrastinate and you start scrolling on your phone, you start watching TV shows, you start, playing your video games in an attempt to take back control of the day, which you feel like you've not had any time to enjoy. What I've just described actually has a psychological term. It's called revenge bedtime procrastination. And a lot of people suffer with it. I know I suffered with it terribly. And basically it comes from this feeling that we're not really in control of our days. We have too many obligations we need to tend to during our day. We could be working, a job which requires a lot from us. It requires us to be glued to our computer screen all day. We could be entrepreneurs and have to work basically when our clients work, and your whole of your daytime schedule is all over the place. And so what you do, because you've basically lost control of the day, is you take the time back that you feel you're owed at bedtime when you should be sleeping. And this can come in a lot of different forms. It can come in severe procrastination, just scrolling on Instagram Reels or, YouTube Shorts. It could come in the form of trying to get to that next level of the video game. It could come in the form as deciding at that point that you need to speak with people or make notes on some sort of subject. And it can have serious detrimental impacts on you, because one of the main reasons procrastination happens in the first place is actually lack of sleep. And what happens when you don't give yourself an adequate amount of time to be in bed, your sleep stages end up suffering. So when you go to sleep, you go through a variety of different sleep stages. You have light sleep, you have deep sleep, you have REM sleep, and they cycle in and out like this. So you have a tendency to get more REM sleep towards the end of the night, although you do have little bits of REM sleep occurring throughout your sleep throughout the night, but the bulk of it is at the end of the night. So say you're going to bed too late and then your alarm is going to go off and perhaps an hour earlier than what you need to get a full night of sleep. You end up missing out on some REM sleep. And let me just tell you a little bit about what REM sleep helps and how it can actually help you maintain your regular day-to-day function. So REM sleep helps you consolidate memories, it helps you with emotional processing, and it also helps you with learning and memory as well. So when you get a good amount of REM sleep, these are the processes it is helping. However, when you don't get as much REM sleep because you procrastinated before bedtime, and as a consequence, you don't get the adequate amount of sleep, so your REM sleep is actually cut short at the end. This means that you might have poor handling over your emotions the next day, or it might be quite difficult to take in new information or learn new processes. And if you look into the science of procrastination in general, you will see that a lot of procrastination comes from poor handling of emotions, lacking of impulse controls, your emotions not being that stable, all of which, believe it or not, lacking REM sleep can cause. So we end up with this crazy snowball effect in that the next day you feel even more out of control and that you're not getting the right amount of leisure and having the right control over your time, which is being exacerbated and being perceived. It doesn't always have to be the actual case, but it's being perceived in a way that you're not actually getting enough of this. And it might be being perceived that way because you're actually lacking that REM sleep. Now, it's not only REM sleep that is affected, it's also deep sleep as well. And I'll tell you a little bit about deep sleep and how that can impair you if you're not getting enough of this. So if you're waking up an hour earlier than what you need to get adequate amount of sleep, there's a good chance you're having your REM sleep cut out at the end. But deep sleep usually occurs in the first part of the night, or at least the bulk of it, right? And what deep sleep does, it can control your immune system, it can help with recovery, physical recovery, and also like repair of different cells and bones as well. Lacking deep sleep can make you feel physically sluggish, and it can also give you some sort of immune problems, so you're more likely to get like the common cold if you were to keep having your deep sleep impaired. There is a link between cognitive decline and lack of deep sleep as well. So it's actually quite hard to focus the next day if you don't have the right amount of deep sleep, which is slow wave recovery sleep. Now, if you're pushing your bedtime back by an hour and a half, if you're feeling tired but you're kind of resisting just because you need to get that leisure time out of you, right? You need to take back control of the day. Your chronotype, which is basically how you personally want to sleep, the times your body personally wants to sleep, whether you're a night owl or whether you're an early bird, that might be getting actually pushed back or even brought forward because you're delaying sleep. So what happens is your body thinks, well, I should be in deep sleep right now, but you've pushed your sleep back. So what actually happens is your body cuts short of the deep sleep. You've not had enough chance, and then it kind of rushes on to the later stages of sleep after that. So you get all these crazy impairments in your sleep just because you've procrastinated on bedtime, which snowballs and then gives you worse impulse control and emotional control the next day, which then makes you procrastinate some more and then makes you start perceiving things not in the best rational manner that you could possibly do it. In terms of the reasons why people do this, there's been studies on it, but it's actually quite difficult to work out. So you have to take people's responses as their own anecdotal reason for them doing it, even though they might be rationalizing it. So for instance, when people were asked in a study why they do it, they give a variety of justifications. They say they generally feel like they're out of control of the day. They feel like this procrastination before bedtime is their time, and they want to spend their time doing what they really want to do, because the rest of the day they feel like they've just been a leaf in the wind, but this is their time to take back. And I can resonate with this so deeply. I've experienced that multiple times. I've been in different sorts of jobs, and I've also been an entrepreneur as well. And it's very, very, very tough to think rationally about why you're doing this. Really, you know you're going to be tired the next day, but you just need to just take back some time for yourself so you feel like you have some control over your own life. There's multiple reasons as well why people don't stop doing it, because it does give them a sense of, an immediate sense of increased well-being afterwards. It gives them a feeling like they are actually in control as well. But studies have found that those individuals who suffer with poorer impulse control, or they struggle to self-regulate, they are more likely to take part in procrastination before bedtime. So I've described the issue well enough. Now, what sort of strategies do we put in place to get over this? First of all, it's important that we understand that what we're doing is part of a vicious cycle. The less sleep that we get, the less able we are to regulate our own emotions and impulse control. So it's this snowball effect where you get a lack of sleep one night, it impacts your REM sleep, it impacts your deep sleep. The next night, you feel even more out of control because you've been a leaf in the wind all day, you're struggling to take back control that day. And then what happens is you procrastinate again on bedtime, right? So once you've realized this, you can take a look at your sleep routine. So what's happening at sleep? My recommendation, which really worked for me, is just take a note of what's happening at sleep. Why did you go to bed an hour later or fall asleep an hour and a half later than you usually would? Are you watching TV? Are you playing video games? Are you scrolling on your phone? I would keep my phone next to my bed because it had an alarm on it, which I needed, obviously, to wake up for work every single morning. But what would happen when I kept my phone next to bed is I would go and start scrolling on Instagram, or would start scrolling on YouTube, right? I'd set my alarm or double check my alarm set. And then right there, it's like almost a gateway drug. I'm suddenly being sucked into the dopamine land. And when I did this, I figured that I actually like to scroll on things I'm not quite ready for bed as soon as I get into bed. So what I ended up doing was I got my phone because I knew this was my biggest problem. And I put it in a different room on charge. I got my partner to set her alarm for the time that she was getting up and make sure just to give me a nudge so I can get up, in good time as well. And doing this helped because I was not in charge. I'm not just going to pick up my partner's phone and scroll on that. I am not in charge anymore of basically playing with my phone. It's in a completely different room. But then what would happen was I would start to lie awake for a little amount of time because I conditioned myself into needing to consume some sort of information. It's probably from the 15, 20 years I've done this for. So I've conditioned myself into consuming information before I actually go to bed. So is there a healthier way to do that? Well, yes, there is. I use a Kindle now. And a Kindle is basically an Amazon device where you can download ebooks onto it. And it has a little mode on it that you can select to turn on dark mode. So it's just not very, bright and intrusive for your eyes at this time of night. And what happens when you turn that on is you find that you start to get sleepy. So now I do way more reading at night. I've replaced the bad habit with a good habit. Do way more reading at night, and I start to notice that my eyes start to close when I'm doing this. So I'm reading more and I'm falling asleep naturally. And the results show I have an Aura ring which measures my sleep. The results show that I'm actually falling asleep quicker. I am getting better quality sleep as well. And I'm getting longer stages of deep sleep and REM sleep. So it's a quick tip for you there. Analyze what's actually happening and what you're spending your time on at the end of the night, and then eliminate it or change the habit somewhat. And you have to make a conscious decision to do this. It's not something which I'm just going to resist the fact my phone is sat on the side there. You actually have to think, okay, that's a problem, cancel it rather than try and reduce it. Secondly, one of the problems why you procrastinate at the end of the day is the perceived feeling that you don't have any control over your day. And when you don't have any control over your day, you are using that as an excuse at the end of the night to take back control. Now, sometimes what you're experiencing at the end of the day is completely perceived. It's just a feeling that you don't have control, and so you take back time. But then on the other hand, it's actually quite true. You don't have any time during the day. And what happens is you really haven't had any leisure time. So if that's the case, what you're going to do, and what I recommend for you, is to effectively plan your day. And not only do you plan your day of what tasks you're going to do throughout the day and stick to them, but also plan in a buffer in case those tasks take over the amount of time which you think they're originally going to take. But also plan in specific amount of leisure time for you to do what you want. If you want to play your video games from 7 till 9 at night, make sure you put that in, or if you've got a family and you just really want to sit there and watch Netflix with your family, move it forward an hour and then make sure that hour is uninterrupted so you can actually scratch that itch which you need to scratch. And planning in leisure time is way more difficult than you would think it would be. So you have to be ultra disciplined in the fact that you can't think to yourself, if say a work project is taking longer than you think, I'll just cut 10 minutes into my leisure time there. No, when you reach your leisure time, you should have already built in buffers for your tasks during the day. When you reach your leisure time, you put your pen down, you turn your computer off, you go and spend time doing what you want to do. And then what happens is you're going to be able to recover sleep and you're going to send yourself on an upward cycle, right? Rather than a downward spiral, right? You're going to end up starting this positive cycle. So you're going to be able to sleep better, which means you'll be able to plan your day and control your impulses a bit better the next day, which basically means that you can get more stuff done in shorter time periods, which means you have a little bit more leisure time. But you have to make that active change of actually being able to set the leisure time that you need and then stick to it as well. Another way to deal with this as well is to implement some form of mindfulness or relaxation into your day. So a part of human behavior is completely automatic, and we don't even catch ourselves going into and doing the negative habit, right? So when I would be lying in bed at night and I would reach over to make sure my alarm's set, and then suddenly it's 20 minutes later and I've been scrolling on YouTube Shorts, right, for 20 minutes, and I haven't realized I've been doing that. It's an automatic behavior and it just happens. And then suddenly it's just 20 minutes later, I'm starting to lack sleep, and then I've become aware of it for just a few seconds, and then suddenly I'm back in again for a further 15 minutes. And the problem is with that is the lacking of awareness of the negative behaviors. You can't even see that what's going on is an action which you've taken. It's just completely automatic. So how do you start identifying these automatic behaviors? Very helpful way is mindfulness and relaxation. So mindfulness, meditation. If you put yourself in a room with no distractions in there, set a timer for 20 minutes, and you just focus on your breath for 20 minutes. And every time your brain drifts off to a thought, you just bring it straight back to your breath. That is essentially what mindfulness and relaxation will do. And this over time has the added benefit of that you are training yourself to understand what is exactly happening with your thoughts at different points. And when your thoughts become obvious after a few, sessions of mindfulness, you start to walk around in your day-to-day life as well and become aware of when your brain has jumped to another thought. And you start to realize it does it all the time. But the benefit of this is you start to catch yourself in the feeling of, you know what? I actually want to check my phone right now, or I actually want to watch the end of this TV show even though it's past my bedtime, or I actually want to, whatever it is. You start to become aware of that. And once you become aware of it, you can think, hold on a minute, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take back control right now, and I'm going to do the thing which I should be doing, which might be switching the TV off. It might be, putting your phone in a different room. It's just a useful habit to break that cycle, and it can be done with mindfulness and relaxation. These are a few helpful tips, and they've absolutely helped me as well. But the side effect of doing these helpful tips is that your sleep recovers. And when your sleep recovers, your impulse control goes up. Your ability to self-regulate your own emotions goes up as well. So you don't feel like such a leaf in the wind the next day. You feel that you have got some form of control, and you've planned in when you're actually going to spend some leisure time, and you end up with a fully complete day where you're content. And it might take a lot of time of failing this and going back to it, and failing this and going back to it, before you see some sort of improvement. But if you can do this, I promise you will see some sort of improvement. And my best advice is to continually stick to it as well. If you get out of this pit, don't think to yourself, well, you know what? It's been 3 weeks now since I've actually had my phone in my room. I'm sure I can start putting it on my bedside table again because now I trust myself. It doesn't work like that. It's almost like how an alcoholic shouldn't drink alcohol again. They shouldn't have the small amount of alcohol. So a good example of this is I did exactly what I just described there. I thought to myself, I haven't had a phone for 2 to 3 weeks next to me when I'm falling asleep. I feel like I'm out of that habit now. And started putting it back to on my bedside table, and started putting it on my bedside table again. What happened was I started checking it again. Within a week, the whole habit had set again. My screen time had went up drastically, particularly at the later end of the night. My sleep went worse. And I've just realized I am not strong enough to deal with that. And there's a good reason I'm not strong enough to deal with that. It's because companies who, might be producing Netflix or building smartphones or building any of these apps which use a little amount of dopamine for you to actually want to watch it and to get you kind of hooked. They hire people deliberately who are very, very skilled and knowledgeable about what gets humans addicted to what, right? And you've got a whole team of incredibly smart people who are using studies basically against you to essentially get you addicted and stuck on things, which is actually making your life. It gives them money because they get more revenue as a company, but it negatively impacts your life. And what happens is your single brain is not going to be able to beat their brain, right? To beat their collective minds of trying to, get around this and implementing all these hacks. You're only human. So you shouldn't try to use willpower to get through it. You should use deletion, cancellation, getting rid of it, rather than trying to use willpower to try and regulate itself. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy this video, Please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be releasing more content like this, how to combat ADHD, how to combat procrastination, how to focus. My goal for this channel is to solve the problem of poor focus, distraction, to help you achieve the things you actually want to achieve rather than procrastinating on them. And it's something that I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I've been a top performer at a lot of different jobs. I've been a top performer as an entrepreneur as well. But that's coming from a person who is highly distracted with intense ADHD and procrastination. So now I'm starting to make an effort to get this information out there to help other people as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, let me know your experience as well. And take care. See you in the next one.